You ever meet someone so rude, you have to pause and wonder, wait, did they really just say that out loud? People like that walk around like the world owes them something. They interrupt, they disrespect, they throw shade and act like it's normal. And the worst part? Most of the time they expect you to just smile and take it. But here's the truth. You don't need to get angry. You don't need to argue. You don't need to stoop to their level. All you need is the right words at the right moment. Words that cut through their ego. Words that flip the script. Words that leave them absolutely speechless. In this video, I'll show you powerful comebacks you can use to handle rude people without losing your cool. Comebacks that are calm, stoic, and so sharp, they won't know what hit them. Let's dive in. By the way, if you enjoy deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I share powerful lessons, controversial truths, and practical strategies to help you level up, all for free. Want to join? Sign up using the link below and start receiving value-packed content straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor my content and reach a highly engaged audience, feel free to reach out via my email in the description. Let's create something impactful together. 1. I'm not the one. Try someone who tolerates nonsense. You ever notice how some people just test you? Not because they're confused, not because they're joking, but because they want to see if you'll let them treat you like garbage and smile through it. Yeah, I used to be that person who smiled through it. I used to let it slide. Let them talk slick, throw shade, and act like they were better than everyone in the room. I'd convince myself, don't make a scene, keep the peace. But you know what that kind of thinking does? It turns you into a doormat with a polite face. And one day, I looked in the mirror and realized I was done. There was this guy at my old job. Let's call him Brad. Now, Brad thought he was that guy. You know the type. The one who walks in late to every meeting but still manages to interrupt you mid-sentence. The one who thinks being sarcastic is a personality trait. The one who hides his insecurity behind arrogance and fake leadership. Anyway, we were in a team meeting. I was presenting something I'd spent weeks building. Data, design, strategy, the whole deal. And in the middle of my slide, Brad goes, do you even understand what you're talking about? Because this sounds like a lot of fluff. And I just froze for a second. You ever get that burning feeling in your chest where your brain is screaming, say something, stand up, say it now? I looked at him calm as ever and I said, Brad, I'm not the one. Try someone who tolerates nonsense. I don't. You should have seen his face. That little smirk melted like ice in July. And the best part, nobody in that room stepped in to defend him. Because they all wanted to say the same thing, I just beat them to it. Here's the truth they won't teach you in school. Most rude people aren't bold. They're just used to getting away with it. They've been rewarded with silence, nervous laughter, or fake politeness their whole life. So when someone finally speaks up, especially if you say it calmly with zero emotion, that shakes them, because bullies thrive on chaos. When you take that away from them, they have nothing. And let's be real for a second. Some people are just addicted to drama. They walk into every room like they're the main character and everyone else is background noise. They act loud because being thoughtful takes too much effort. They insult others to cover up the fact that they haven't worked on themselves in years. You don't need to match their energy. You don't need to clap back louder. You just need to make it clear, I'm not the one. You've mistaken my kindness for weakness. And that ends today. When you stop tolerating nonsense, people will call you difficult, Let them. When you set boundaries, people will call you too sensitive. Let them. You weren't put on this planet to be everyone's emotional punching bag. You weren't born to absorb people's bad moods, fragile egos, and fake power plays. You were born to protect your peace. And you don't need to yell to do that. You just need one sentence calmly spoken that stops them in their tracks. I'm not the one. Try someone who tolerates nonsense, because once you stop explaining yourself to rude people, once you stop lowering your standards just to be liked, you gain something most people will never have: self-respect. And you don't need everyone to like you. You just need to stop pretending to like them. So next time someone comes at you with shade, sarcasm, or disrespect, don't argue, don't react. Just smile and say, try someone else. I'm not the one. 2. I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough. You know what's funny? People really think their opinion holds weight in your life just because they said it out loud. Like somehow, the moment they disapprove of you, you're supposed to shrink, reflect, and beg for validation. But here's the truth. I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough. That's it. That's the whole mood. I remember this moment so vividly. There was this guy I used to hang out with. The type who always had something slick to say. Backhanded compliments, fake concern, little ego jabs disguised as just being honest. One day, I posted something I was proud of, an idea I had worked on for months. He comments, "This seems kind of cringe. Are you sure this is the vibe you want to give off?" And instead of arguing, instead of defending myself like I used to, I just replied, "Don't worry, I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough to care." And I meant it, fully, calmly, no bitterness, just truth. Here's the part nobody says out loud. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Just because someone talks doesn't mean they matter. Just because they don't approve of you doesn't mean you need fixing. Sometimes the people judging you have done absolutely nothing with their own life except run their mouth. And yet, here they are, issuing opinions like they're Google reviews for your soul. You don't have to be offended. You just have to stop pretending their voice matters. You ever notice how the loudest people always have the least going on? They have time to criticize your hustle because they've never started theirs. They judge your content, your outfit, your relationship because they secretly wish they had your confidence. And they'll call you sensitive when you set a boundary just to avoid admitting they're being disrespectful. Let me say it louder. You don't need to get offended when a clown disapproves of your circus. Just remind yourself, they bought a ticket. You're the show. Here's the real flex. When someone insults you and you don't flinch, you don't clap back, you don't spiral or seek approval, you just shrug and go, "Noted, irrelevant." That's real power. That's the kind of confidence that can't be broken because it doesn't depend on outside voices. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about arrogance. It's about protecting your energy from opinions that never mattered to begin with. So the next time someone throws shade, tries to insult you, or makes it their mission to chip away at your confidence, don't argue, don't justify, don't even get mad. Just smile, breathe and say, "I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough." And watch how fast they shrink once they realize they have zero power over someone who stopped needing their approval. 3. That's a weird way to beg for attention. Some people don't insult you to make a point. They insult you to be seen. You know the type. They walk into a room and immediately go for the low-hanging fruit. Your outfit, your past, your weight, your success, your failures. They say it with a smirk like they're just playing, but deep down, they're starving. Not for food, not for truth, for attention. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "That's a weird way to beg for attention." Boom. One sentence. Silence. They're done. I remember being at a get-together with people I hadn't seen in a while. Everything was chill until this one guy, let's call him Eddie the Ego, starts trying to make everyone laugh at someone else's expense. It wasn't even funny, just petty, unnecessary, and weirdly personal. So eventually he turns to me and says, "Still doing that little project of yours? Must be nice having so much free time." Now, younger me might have gotten defensive, tried to explain, laugh it off, but that day I didn't. I looked at him, smiled, and said, "That's a weird way to beg for attention. Do you want a hug or something?" The entire table went quiet, because it was the truth, and everyone felt it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People who constantly tear others down usually have nothing going on themselves. They throw shade because they're afraid of your light. They get loud because being silent would force them to sit with their own mediocrity. So when you call out the real motive behind their rudeness, attention-seeking, they freeze, because now the mask is off. Now everyone sees them not as clever or confident, but as insecure, hungry for validation, and desperately trying to be relevant. And that's what makes this line so powerful. It exposes without attacking. Let's be real. In today's world, attention is the new currency. People will say the most disrespectful things, not because they believe it, but because they want a reaction. And when you don't give them outrage, when you give them clarity instead, like, "You're not edgy, you're just loud and lonely. You're not funny, you're just trying not to cry." That's a weird way to beg for attention. They deflate, because nothing is scarier to an attention seeker than someone who won't play the game. Here's what I learned. Not every insult deserves a comeback. Not every disrespect needs a reaction. But some people need to be reminded we see through the performance. So instead of clapping back with fire, clap back with truth. Calm, clean, and deadly. That's a weird way to beg for attention. It stops the show. It ends the act. It puts the spotlight where it belongs, on their insecurity, not your response. So the next time someone tries to get under your skin with a fake joke, a snide comment, or a backhanded truth bomb, don't yell, don't explain, don't even blink. Just smile, tilt your head a little and say, "That's a weird way to beg for attention." Because in a world full of people screaming for relevance, your calm confidence will always be the loudest thing in the room. 4. Every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. You know what's worse than someone being rude? Someone being loud and wrong. There's this rare kind of person who talks just to fill the silence. They're not trying to add value. They're trying to dominate the room. Their words aren't insight. They're noise pollution. And after a while you realize every time they speak, it's a reminder to value silence, because silence, unlike them, has dignity. I was once stuck in a group chat with this guy, Mr. Commentary. You could be talking about anything, finance, relationships, life, books, and he'd always jump in with this fake confidence, like he was a walking TED Talk. But here's the thing, everything he said was surface level, negative, or borrowed from some random podcast he misunderstood. He didn't want a conversation, he wanted control. And one day during a discussion, he tried to correct someone on a topic he clearly didn't understand. So I paused, looked around, and just said, "You know, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence." Boom. No yelling, no insults, just truth, served ice cold. And suddenly, silence never sounded so beautiful. Here's the thing most people won't admit. Some people speak not to connect, but to compensate. They talk over you because they fear being irrelevant. They talk too much because they don't know who they are in the quiet. And they try to sound wise, but all you hear is a desperate attempt to be heard. When you hit them with this line, it's not just a comeback, it's a mirror. It shows them what they fear the most, that their words don't inspire respect. They inspire the desire to leave the room. Controversial truth, the loudest are often the emptiest. You've heard the phrase, empty barrels make the most noise. Yeah, that's real. Some of the rudest people are also the most uninformed, and they wear their ignorance like it's a designer suit. They confuse volume with intelligence. They confuse sarcasm with wit. They confuse dominance with respect. But once you say, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence, the entire dynamic changes. Because now, you've reminded them that not speaking is a form of power too. Life lesson, be selective with your words. This line isn't just about shutting someone down. It's about protecting your peace. You don't need to out-talk rude people. You don't need to match their energy. You need to show them that your silence is not weakness. It's restraint. And when you do speak, you do it with intention, not desperation. That's the real flex. So next time someone starts talking just to sound superior, next time they try to dominate the room with empty words and a loud ego, don't shout, don't argue, don't even raise an eyebrow. Just look them in the eye and say, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. Then lean back and enjoy the silence they leave behind. 4. Every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. You know what's worse than someone being rude? Someone being loud and wrong. There's this rare kind of person who talks just to fill the silence. They're not trying to add value. They're trying to dominate the room. Their words aren't insight, they're noise pollution. And after a while you realize, every time they speak, it's a reminder to value silence, because silence, unlike them, has dignity. I was once stuck in a group chat with this guy, Mr. Commentary. You could be talking about anything, finance, relationships, life, books, and he'd always jump in with this fake confidence like he was a walking TED Talk. But here's the thing, everything he said was surface level, negative, or borrowed from some random podcast he misunderstood. He didn't want a conversation, he wanted control. And one day during a discussion, he tried to correct someone on a topic he clearly didn't understand. So I paused, looked around, and just said, you know, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. Boom, no yelling, no insults, just truth, served ice cold. And suddenly, silence never sounded so beautiful. Here's the thing most people won't admit. Some people speak not to connect, but to compensate. They talk over you because they fear being irrelevant. They talk too much because they don't know who they are in the quiet. And they try to sound wise, but all you hear is a desperate attempt to be heard. When you hit them with this line, it's not just a comeback, it's a mirror. It shows them what they fear the most, that their words don't inspire respect. They inspire the desire to leave the room. Controversial truth, the loudest are often the emptiest. You've heard the phrase, empty barrels make the most noise. Yeah, that's real. Some of the rudest people are also the most uninformed, and they wear their ignorance like it's a designer suit. They confuse volume with intelligence. They confuse sarcasm with wit. They confuse dominance with respect. But once you say, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence, the entire dynamic changes. Because now, you've reminded them that not speaking is a form of power too. Life lesson, Be selective with your words. This line isn't just about shutting someone down. It's about protecting your peace. You don't need to out-talk rude people. You don't need to match their energy. You need to show them that your silence is not weakness. It's restraint. And when you do speak, you do it with intention, not desperation. That's the real flex. So next time someone starts talking just to sound superior, next time they try to dominate the room with empty words and a loud ego, don't shout, don't argue, don't even raise an eyebrow. Just look them in the eye and say, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. Then lean back and enjoy the silence they leave behind. 5. If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. Most people want two things when they insult you: a reaction and control. They want to see you flinch, to get under your skin, to prove that they have some kind of power over how you feel. But here's what they never expect: a smile and a calm reply. If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. That line, it's not about ego, it's about boundaries. It's a warning shot that says, I've been through worse. You're not even a scratch. I remember when I was younger, insults used to hit me like bricks. Some guy once laughed at the way I dressed and said, "You really think that looks good on you?" I pretended to laugh. But later, I went home and changed. Another time, someone mocked my goals, said, "That's cute. You actually believe you'll make it?" And I doubted myself for weeks. But life changed me. Not with motivation videos, not with quotes, with pain, rejection, betrayals, public failures, and slowly. I started to realize, you only hurt when you still believe them. But once you know who you are, their words are just noise. So now when someone says something disrespectful or tries to poke a nerve, I don't even blink. I look them dead in the eye and say, if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. Because, baby, if you think you can break me, you clearly have no idea what I've survived. Here's the part nobody wants to say. Some people feel better about themselves when you feel worse. They want you insecure because it keeps you quiet. They want you emotional because it keeps you off balance. They want you hurt because it makes them feel powerful. But when you respond with strength, when you don't give them what they want, you take that power back, and it drives them crazy. Because now they realize, you're not the same person they used to walk over. You're not fragile anymore. You're fireproof. Saying, you'll have to try harder, isn't just a clapback. It's a clear sign of emotional control. It tells people, I don't validate myself based on your words. I've heard worse, survived worse, grown through worse, and your little attempt to break me? It's laughable. You're not denying that people try to hurt you. You're saying, I'm not letting it in. That's psychological warfare, and you just won it without raising your voice. Here's the truth. You don't need to fight every insult. You don't need to match their energy. You just need to remind yourself, you've cried before, you've lost before, and guess what? You're still here, stronger, smarter, sharper. So no, a sarcastic remark won't break you. A disrespectful tone won't define you. A random nobody's opinion won't determine your worth. And if they're still trying, if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. Because you're not the same person anymore. You've built armor from every wound, and now you choose who gets to affect you. So the next time someone tries to come for you, with a fake joke, a low blow, or a desperate jab, don't flinch. Just lean back, smile, and say, if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. Then walk away. Because silence from a strong person is louder than anything a weak one could ever say. 6. You're not on the level to get a reaction from me. Why this line stings? Because it doesn't insult directly. It dismisses. It tells the person, without yelling, without cursing, that they are beneath your attention, beneath your energy, and definitely beneath your emotional response. It quietly annihilates their ego. Real-life breakdown. Look, there are two kinds of people when it comes to arguments. The ones who want a solution. The ones who just want to provoke you and feel powerful. The second type. They're not looking for the truth. They're not even looking to win a debate. They just want a reaction, because that's how they feel in control. But this line, you're not on the level to get a reaction from me, it tells them they don't even qualify to disrupt your peace. Story-based example. Let me tell you about my old workplace. There was this guy, let's call him Mike. Mike was the office smartass, always throwing little passive-aggressive shots, always trying to embarrass people during meetings. One day I presented an idea to the team, and while everyone was listening, Mike said, "Interesting idea for someone who barely shows up on time." I could have snapped. I could have clapped back with a personal insult, but instead I just smiled and said, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me." And then I kept talking like he never said a word. The room shifted. People stopped laughing at his jabs after that. Why? Because I didn't stoop to his level. I made it clear he wasn't even close to mine. Deep message. Here's what most people don't get. You don't win by out-insulting rude people. You win by showing them they don't even matter enough to upset you. This line works because it forces them to reflect, wait, am I irrelevant? And for a rude, ego-driven person, that's the most painful realization of all. What this line tells them. You're not emotionally triggered. You don't feel threatened. You view them as background noise, not a worthy opponent. And that destroys them without a raised voice or a single curse word. How to deliver it? Say it calmly. Say it with eye contact. Then turn away. Change the subject. Walk off. Don't explain it. Don't repeat it. Let the silence afterward echo louder than their whole attitude. Final thought. People who constantly push your buttons are hoping you'll break character. But when you hit them with, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me," you're not just holding your ground. You're declaring, "I have standards, and you didn't make the cut." 7. That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. Why it cuts deep? Because it reveals the one thing most rude people are trying to hide, their insecurity. They wear arrogance like armor. They fire shots at others to feel bigger. But this line, it tears all that down. It tells them, everyone can see you're not confident, you're compensating. And nothing stings harder than being seen too clearly. Real-life situation. Ever had someone throw you a compliment that wasn't really a compliment, like, "Wow, I didn't think someone like you could pull that off." Good for you. I guess not everyone needs talent. It's the kind of backhanded nonsense that comes from people who feel threatened but don't have the guts to say it. One time, after I presented something at a meeting, a colleague, let's call him Daniel, looked me up and down and said, "Well, I guess confidence can make anything sound smart." Everyone paused. It was supposed to be a dig disguised as a joke. I just smiled and replied, "That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure." Silence. You could feel the shift in the room. He wanted a laugh. He got a mirror instead. Why this works so well? Because it does 3 things in one hit. It flips the script. Suddenly, you're not the one being attacked. They are. It exposes their motive. You're calling out their fear without being emotional. It makes them look small, and you look unbothered. That's the kind of psychological damage that lingers. The deep truth: most rude comments aren't about you. They're about the person's need to feel in control, to be heard, to mask their own jealousy or sense of inferiority. And by saying, "That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure," you call their bluff. You see through the disguise. You don't fight back. You dissect them. Bonus power move. After you say it, pause. Let it hang in the air. Don't explain it. Don't follow it up. Let them feel what they just exposed. Because the real burn isn't in your words. It's in the realization that everyone else saw it too. Final message. You don't need to shout. You don't need to curse. You just need to see the truth, speak it calmly, and let the silence do the rest. Next time someone throws passive-aggressive shade, remember, that was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. It's in your ability to stay calm and precise. Rude people thrive on chaos. They feed off your reaction. But when you learn to respond with poise and subtle destruction, something magical happens. You stop being a victim and become untouchable. These comebacks, they're not just clever lines, they're boundaries disguised as words. They say, "You don't get access to my peace just because you're loud." So next time someone tests you, remember, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to stoop to their level. You just need one calm sentence, delivered like a scalpel, to leave them speechless. Let them choke on their own attitude. You've got bigger things to do. Say it with a calm smile. Then walk away like you just dropped a truth bomb they'll never recover from.